Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about fix-up strategies. This is something else that good readers do and do well. So, as you can see, I've got my anchor chart up here, and you can put this in your reading notebook, and it will go after the stamina. And we're going to talk about our fix-up strategies. Also, I emailed you documents for today. These little cards with the animals, to help us remember reading strategies for the word level. Now, so at the top of your paper, if you'll do fix-up strategies, and if you want to use markers, something like that, just for color, I always think that just makes it a little bit more friendly to use. Okay. All right, and then the yellow cutout right there, I can use fix-up strategies to help me be a better reader. That's our purpose in our lesson today. Okay, so we're going to label our top paper with a word level, and I wrote that, and then I just boxed it in. And we're going to work on the left-hand side first. We're going to work on fix-up strategies at the word level. And I'm sure that you have heard these over the years, for your decoding and strategies to figure out words that we don't know. Okay, so the first strategy is one that we're pretty familiar with, and that is stretchy snake. So if you want to cut stretchy out and glue him on your paper, that would be great. And this is the most common strategy that we use. And stretchy snake, you're going to take a word like ship, and you're going to slowly stretch each letter sound to make the word. Sh, I, p, ship. So it was, it's just like that. And sometimes, that's an easy word, but when we get more complicated words, it still works too. And I use it. I still use that strategy. Okay, so let's go to one of my favorite strategies. I love this strategy. Is little Chunky Monkey. Isn't it cute? So go ahead and cut Chunky Monkey out and glue him on your paper. And Chunky Monkey says that we're going to break the words into chunks that you already know. So, for example, I'm going to skip down to the word splatter. And remember from your phonics days when you had the SPL blend, spla. And then we have at. We know the word at. And then the enter. And then you're going to put it together like splatter. And this works great for, all kinds of words. Is my favorite strategy is one I still use, and Chunky Monkey, chunking up parts of the words that you know. Okay, so now you have Skippy the Frog. It's a great one, Skippy here. And we're going to put him under Chunky the Monkey to remind us of how to use this strategy. Now, Skippy the Frog, you want to skip the tricky word because sometimes we just need to trick our brains. And we need to give our brains a little break. And so we will skip the word and then continue to read the sentence. And then when you get to the end of the sentence or the end of the paragraph, whatever it is you're reading, go back and see if you can figure that word out. Okay, go back and try it again. And then you will often, just giving your brain that little break, giving it some more content from the sentence, will help you oftentimes figure out the word. Eagle eye. Look at the pictures. Think, what is in the picture that starts with the beginning letter? And so you can always use your text features if it's a nonfiction book, or use the pictures to help you solve words. Okay, now I want to tell you one of my personal. You don't have to write this down. But on my phone when I'm reading, I a lot of times use the pronunciation, because I find out that I have said words incorrectly all my life. I know there's this one word, and it's I've always pronounced it brusque, BRUSQUE. And then I was reading this summer, and the word is actually pronounced brusque. But I worked for an English lady, and she pronounced it brusque, and so I always pronounced it brusque. And that just means rough. Like if you say something brusquely, then you're saying it hateful. Okay, so that's just a little trick that I love to use the word pronunciation on my phone. Just type it into Google, how do you pronounce, or what is the meaning of. Those are good sources. But a lot of times, you just need to do it, need to figure out words on the fly. Okay, now we're going to talk about the right hand side of the paper, and we're going to talk about text level. The most important part of reading, it's not getting all the words right. It's not being the fastest reader in the room. The most important part of reading is reading to understand. Okay? Remember what I told you, slower is faster. So just because, Sally finishes first doesn't mean she finished the quickest, doesn't mean that she necessarily finished first. Because if she didn't understand what she read, then she's actually going to have to reread it and to get the meaning. So slower is faster, and the purpose of reading is not to get all the words correct. The purpose of the reading is to understand the words on the page. So, strategies that we can use to help us be a better reader is reread it and read on. Okay, reread it and read on. It's kind of like Skippy the Frog. Just reread it. If you read a paragraph and it doesn't make sense, or you read a sentence and it doesn't make sense, then reread it. And then you kind of think about it. And sometimes I say to myself, well, I'm just going to read on because I'll figure it out. Okay, or I'll ask somebody, but sometimes it clarifies itself. It's our brains don't always work as quickly as we want them to, and so they need a minute. It's just like when we're out running or doing whatever, our bodies can't always do what we want them to, so sometimes we give a break, and then we're good to go. When you are reading, you have to be an engaged and focused reader. You got to do your part. You cannot do reading halfway. You have to be an engaged reader, and that means that you're in it. You're in that moment, and you're going to ask yourself questions. Why is the character doing that? Where are they? When was this story written? I mean, all kinds of things like that are just great questions that readers read. And I know my husband used to get aggravated at me because I've always asked 1,000 questions, and but that's how I make meaning and sense out of my world. And when you're reading, it's always good to be curious and want to know, wonder what's going to happen next, and it adds a layer of excitement to your reading as well. This one I've already touched on, using text features, and you're drawing in these little emblems in your reading notebook. And remember, I will be checking these. And I put a bar graph there. You can draw that and use your text features. Especially on the EOG, there are often questions that will be asking about information that can only be found in a text feature. It's not in the text itself. It can only be found in text feature. That's a little trick that tricky Ricky that those test makers like to do. So we have to watch out for them. Okay. Next is we're going to be making connections. I love making connections. Making connections is like making, it's like asking questions. But when you read, you want to, this isn't part of it, but when you read, you want to improve your memory. You want that to affect you emotionally. Anytime you can tap into your emotions, it's just going to make that memory stronger. Okay? So, and when you can relate to somebody, like a text to text. The other day, when I read to you, the in the writing, I read to you Junkyard Wonders, and I related that to a book that I had read to some of you guys, um, at the end of last year, when I read to you, Thank You, Mr. Falker, both books by Patricia Polacco, both books by when she was younger, both books that affected her strongly and emotionally. And that is what we call a text to text connection. And I'm sure that you've heard that before. So you want to just draw your little circle there and put text to text. So anytime you can connect a book to another book, it just adds files. We're building our schema, and we're just building that background knowledge. We just have so much more to pull from, and we can make our reading deeper, have a deeper understanding. Can I connect my text to my world? Okay. What is happening in the world right now? When I read the book, Thank You, or not Thank You, Mr. Falker, but when I read to you the book, well, my mind went blank. I just read it to you. Junkyard Wonders. How does that relate to the world? Well, we all feel inadequate, and there are people around us who have disabilities and who are different. And the beauty of that book and the beauty of Miss Peterson is that, you know, you can always use those differences to just make you, it just makes you who you are. And so, that is something, when I read that book, I know that that happens in the real world. That's not isolated. Those are things that my students and students at the school happens, it happens all the time. We have people who are different. We have people who are different colors, who have different struggles, whose parents who have different jobs, who live in different settings at home. You may live with mom and dad, you may just live with mom. You may live with mom one week and dad the next week, and or the next day, however it works for your family. But those books, like Patricia Polacco writes, you can connect those to the real world. And then we finally have, how does that book relate to me? Text to me or text to self. And when I think of the book Junkyard Wonders, I just think about children who I've helped learn to read, who may struggle with reading, how, that it's rewarding for them, how those children need to feel special. I think about my own life, how I'm just a very country person, and how I felt so out of place in college when I went with a lot of people who'd been to prep schools and were just, their whole lives, they had just so many more life experiences than I've had. They went to Europe and traveled and been all over the United States. And here I was, this country hick from Yadkin County, and hadn't, you know, I don't even think I'd hardly been out of the state, and just, kind of felt inadequate. So, we all feel different at times. Okay, our next strategy is replace words. Now, I do this a lot in my reading. When I am replacing words, you use a word that you don't know with a word that kind of fits the meaning of the sentence. For example, if I did not know what the word ecstatic meant, and I was reading and I said, Miss Lang was ecstatic that someone brought her a Starbucks coffee. white chocolate mocha in the morning, then I would know that. And Miss Lang was ecstatic that she got a white chocolate mocha, and she said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," with a huge smile on her face. Well, I know that Miss Lang has to be excited. Okay? She has to be excited to have received that coffee. Okay, so here we are, guys. These are our fix-up strategies for that. And so make sure that those get in your reading notebooks. That's something we're going to be doing later on. Lots of good strategies. I know you had other strategies that are great too. I just picked out the ones that I liked the best, but these are wonderful if you want to add these to the next page of your book. All great strategies. There's a for you to put in your book, and to when you get stuck on words and you don't remember, then you have your reading notebook for a resource. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now,